Welcome to Around the Blockchain. Is going to be a fantastic episode. We're talking about billionaire Ray Dahlio fudding Bitcoin and trying to push CBDCs. There's an ulterior motive. Also, we're looking at the GitHub development activity for the upcoming altcoins for this upcoming bull season. Sometimes it can front run some serious development in a specific chain, specific ecosystem. Is there going to be a pump around the corner? And also, Charles Hoskinson on Joe Rogan. Is this going to happen? It's going to be a great episode, a fun episode. We're going to start on the top right. One of my top 3 traders. And I just had the other one on the morning stream, and that is Jayson Casper. Jayson Casper, I was talking to Gareth earlier, man. Jayson, you're in the rarefied trifecta. How are you doing today?
Wow. I'm doing good, DZ. How are you?
I'm doing great. And man. Yeah, I know. I was just about to say, now people think we're in the Illuminati. No, Jayson, you can't do that. You can't do that.
I gotta leave.
You guys are giving everybody ammunition, man.
And on that note, we're going to head to Rice. Definitely not at Bohemian Grove ever. It is RiceTVx. How are you doing today, Rice?
I'm good. What does this mean?
Oh, no, we're not. We don't worship owl gods by any means. Then also, this is already off the rails. It is Big Pay, big developer in the Cardano ecosystem, even helping out BJ with some stuff. Big Pay, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. Excited to be on Around the Blockchain again. Always a pleasure.
Hey, real quick, what do you think about Charles on Joe? Are you ready for it?
I'm ready for it. I just don't know if we'll ever see it. You know, we've been hearing Rogan after Gogan for years, and Gogan came a year ago. Still no Joe Rogan episode.
All right, and then rounding it up, we have Crypto Blood holding up that top left corner. How are you doing today, Crypto Blood? All right, yeah.
Where's my red square, man? Come on now, you guys are messing up.
We screwed up. All right, and we're all gonna have Illuminati emails at the end of this episode, but we're talking about Ray Dahlio pushing and fudding some Bitcoin. Bad news here. He was sharing this his general views on crypto and Bitcoin on CNBC's Squawk Box. Sometimes some good stuff comes out of there, and he did not express any admiration for Bitcoin. It's not going to be an effective money, he says. It's not an effective storehold of wealth. It's not an effective medium of exchange, but he loves CBDCs for some reason. Now, you know, Jayson, we were kind of talking ahead of the show here. I was looking at his assets. This man has $126 billion in assets with his Bridgewater fund, $126 billion. And I just was thinking, you know, what if he did put 1 or 2% into Bitcoin? You're looking around a $1.5 billion, $2 billion purchase. And it reminded me, Tesla market bought Bitcoin around December 2020. That Tesla famously bought $1.5 billion of Tesla. We saw huge moves. If Ray Dahlio and Bridgewater, let's just say they decide to deploy $1.5 billion into the ecosystem, do you think we would mimic the December 2020 pump? Or is it just too difficult after a green month like January?
You know, it is obviously speculative, DZ, and thank you so much for having me on Around the Blockchain. But I do think it very well could give us another move to the upside, even after January. I mean, if we take a look at the chart right now, we can see that we are coming up to a very interesting area of resistance. And I do believe if we were to break out of this $25,000 area, we would see our next bullish target of 30K. So perhaps, you know, if somebody like Ray Dahlio was going to purchase Bitcoin like that, it might actually give us that push we need. Because when Tesla bought and announced, well, when Elon was talking about it, I mean, it did really give us a big push. The only thing that gives me a little bit of concern right now is the fact that we do see, you know, Sam Bankman-Fried upside down on the 4-hour. So we might be getting a pullback, but maybe we need him to step in right now and pump the Bitcoin price. So, you know, we'll have to reach out to him. I'll reach out to him since I have a connection.
Now, I don't know if it's the pump has been too short-lived. Have we seen any bearish divergence lately with this run-up, or is it just too fresh and just this 4-hour maybe is the main one? Has it hit the daily yet, for instance?
Yeah. So I mean, this entire run up, we have been getting some pretty bearish divergences forming. Like even on the daily time frame right now, we see the bearish divergence forming. And I mean, we are coming up literally to the August high right here. So I mean, I expect a pullback. You So let's see what happens. It's still bullish market structure, but the divergences are pretty strong. So if we bust through here, that would be extremely bullish. But we have to have a pullback for it to maintain healthy market structure.
Yeah, I mean, we can only have so many green candles in a row. It's just a matter of how many, and it's really a matter of when, not if. So hey, if you think you got the chops of what it takes to make sure you join Jayson Casper's channel, join his Discord. They're always putting in pretty good trades there. All right, RiceTVx. It's not just Ray Dahlio fudding Bitcoin recently. This is just in the past week or so. We have Charlie Munger also coming out against it. We have Jim Cramer coming out against it. All these billionaires or famous TV personalities just trying to push down Bitcoin, it seems like. Do you think that there's any financial incentive for them to FUD Bitcoin? Or are they just, maybe trying to double down on what could be a bad choice? And they just can't reverse.
Great question, man. And thanks again for having me back on Around the Blockchain. What I would actually think is I would actually compare this. I mean, this is kind of an old man's club, except for an old man rich club, except for Kramer, obviously, but he might be getting paid by the old rich guys to put out the information, the FUD. This kind of reminds me of what happened back in 2018, I believe is when it was, when Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan was coming out talking negatively about Bitcoin, and then their banking institution, Swift Bank, or I'm drawing a blank on the name of the bank. What is the bank that I'm drawing a blank on the name, but they ended up purchasing a large amount of Bitcoin based off of the price going down, and it was Jamie Dimon who brought the price down. So is this a position where these guys are talking negatively so they can try to help bring the price down? Because there are a lot of people in the traditional legacy markets that look at these guys as being someone who they can pay attention to their points of views. Are they spreading a certain narrative so they can potentially bring this price down to give them better opportunities at buying? I mean, I'm pretty sure Blood's going to be agreeing with me with this. I don't think that the 15.5, 15.6 is the bottom that we're going to see. I think we still have a lot lower to go. And I think like pushes like this, like having people like Ray Dahlio, Munger, and all these guys talking negatively about Bitcoin. And it also just goes to show their disconnect with technology, especially if this isn't, if there isn't something more behind this, if they're not trying to drive the price down so they can accumulate at lower prices. It is really just them not understanding technology. And it's almost like thinking about trying to give your grandmother a brand new remote control that she's never used and try to have her program it for her TV and make it function. Imagine that nightmare. And that's what we're experiencing, I think, too, potentially with these old rich dudes.
Yeah, no, just to add a little color, Charlie Munger is 99.
Old guys.
Yeah,
Color
Charlie
to the
Munger
old
is
white guys.
well. Hey, old TV makeup. We're adding a little color here. Jim Cramer, 67 years old. Ray Dahlio, 73. Charlie Munger, 99. That's right. Charlie Munger's about to be 100 years old. I actually didn't realize he was that old. No, well, Crypto Blood. One, I would like to know your thoughts. I was talking to Gareth Soloway. He's still above 50% probability we go below 15K. I'm below 50%, but he's above 50% is going to happen. I'm curious on your thoughts on that. And to the effect of this old rich man's club here, do you think that Ray Dahlio and some of these others, do you think they're getting inside information that's making them not want to buy any Bitcoin?
To your first point about, thanks for having me, DZ. To your first point about the 50% probability of going lower than 15, I think we do go lower. You just got to look at, so I like to zoom out. I like to look at the fundamentals from a macro standpoint. And if you look at that, we've had, a 10% rally in the equities since the beginning of the year. Crazy. Okay. That is unsustainable. We're well and way ahead of ourselves coming into the new year. So those gains are going to come back. And subsequently, if the gains come back in the equities markets, they're going to come back and retrace in the crypto markets as well. So that's kind of my overall thesis. We're heading lower for sure. This has just been a squeeze, if you want to call it, a short squeeze, and we're losing momentum. I mean, you see the divergences; they're happening all over the place on different time frames. That is, I think, in the books. We're going to head lower. Now, to the point about Ray Dahlio and the other billionaires, I think they just don't want to admit they were wrong. I don't think it's anything other than that. They just don't want to admit they were wrong. I think they know that this technology is the future, but they have to keep a narrative and a perception right, in front of the public. And that perception is that they are never wrong when they are, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, big pay. I mean, is the answer that easy? Why do you think a lot of these so-called financial experts don't believe in Bitcoin? Is the answer as simple as ego and hubris?
Oftentimes it is. Someone also stated earlier that it's to drive the markets down so they can purchase lower. But if you read Ray Dahlio's last quote here, he mentions, if you created a coin that is buying power that I could save and put my money in over a period of time and transact it anywhere, I think that would be a good coin. I don't think Bitcoin is it. So he describes Bitcoin and then states it's not the one. So I really don't understand here.
All right. So, yeah, he's describing, hey, it's quacking like a duck. It's walking like a duck. Hey, even eats bread at the pond, but it's clearly we don't want a duck as, our cute mascot or something to that effect. Do you think that
not this duck.
Well, Jim Cramer, he's actually been right. His last prediction is the Jim Cramer reverse effect. Is that null and void now?
I hope not.
All right. You're going to continue counter trading him?
Yeah.
All right. And real quick, while I have you up here, what is your probability above, below 15K? Do you think we go above or below here? I mean, was that the bottom? Can we go below 15?
Without offering financial advice, I think we will go below 15K. I think we're going to see a 12K, as a bottom, a wick down there. I don't think it's going to last long, though. I think where we're at right now is pretty healthy. And oftentimes during bear markets, we trade sideways for, 8 months to a year. And I think where we're at right now is a healthy place to trade sideways for a long time.
All right. Jayson Casper,
after that crash.
I asked everybody except the guy who specializes in trading here. What is your odds on, whether or not we go below 15?
I'd say that I'm probably about 50-50, man. I mean, like, we're 15K is right in the middle of that zone where I think the bottom could be. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the bottom wasn't already. But I'm looking between the 786 and the 886 Fibonacci level. So actually, if we do just take a look at every single market cycle, we can see that in between these two blue lines, we always bottom out. And we are printing some macro bottom signals right here. But that could give us a move down to like 10K and still be within that zone, right? We always put in some kind of double bottom at the end of every bear cycle. So, it's impossible to know. But either way, like, bottom's pretty close at least.
Not to get too derailed here. Do you think we would have put in a double bottom if we didn't have the March 2020 crash due to COVID?
I do. And the reason I say that is because every other bear market had a double bottom. And when you look at how like news and things in the world affect the markets, it's hard to tell like what came first, the technicals or the fundamentals. The old saying, like, show me the chart and I'll tell you the news. I was just talking about today how, the dollar index actually hit the golden pocket Fibonacci resistance like a month before 9/11 happened and then took a dump. So it's like, would we have dumped without 9/11? Possibly. It's so hard to wonder about these things, but
Yeah, and it plays out time and time again. And hey, when he's getting ready for that double bottom, he's going to be looking for these crazy JPEGs. So make sure you join his Discord and submit some of your admissions. Hey, maybe use this photo of SBF's polycule. I don't know. All right, we digress here. Let's talk about GitHub activity. I have a little list for you here, and this is the top 10 for the month of January, leading up, what could be a macro bottom. This is what you kind of want to be looking at. Coming in at number 1, Polkadot Kusama, then Cardano, Ethereum, Decentraland. It gives me Apple Dev vibes when I see that pump. Filecoin, Status, ICP, IOTA, Solana, then the Cosmos ecosystem. We also have, I had for the top for the entire year of 2022, I do a little digging. Number 1 was Cardano, and then Polkadot coming in second. So if we go back to this chart, the top 2 essentially just been leading the way, but if you go for the entire year, Cardano slightly ahead of Polkadot there. Now, big pay, I mean, we have someone who is building on Cardano. I mean, can you kind of just explain what is a GitHub activity? I see GitHub activities. What do you mean submission? Is this a submissive hold? Are they putting devs in sleeper holds, figure 4 leg locks? What the heck is a daily GitHub activity? What does it mean for the layman?
So I often see these reports, especially from my community, because Cardano is usually number 1. It's really a couple button clicks. I can create a text file that says, Big Pay is the man, and click commit. And then I am the number one leading development activity, in the ecosystem. So I would take this with a grain of salt. I know a lot of people are building on Cardano. I know a lot of people are building on Polkadot, but GitHub commits and activity is really the worst rating when it comes to investing in cryptocurrency.
All right. Now, Solana was famously gamed with the TVL. Cardano, I don't think we have an issue with TVL, but it appears that we might have an issue with GitHub activity. I mean, is it off the mark from what you're seeing in the ecosystem? Is it is it one of the worst contenders of it being gamified, these stats, or is it maybe one of the best ones from just what you've seen?
So I personally don't believe that, it's being gamified, but it could be, right? So it's important to keep that in mind. But there are multiple development teams working on Cardano at all times. So that's why I think that activity is really high. And, to speak about Cardano's TVL very briefly, JED, the stable coin that's been announced on Cardano has actually launched. And there's already 30 million ADA in TVL in the last few days with JED. So I do expect that TVL to slowly increase over time because JED is an exciting stable coin that's released recently.
All right. Now, RiceTVx, you heard that top 10, Polkadot, Cardano, Ethereum, Decentraland, Filecoin. That's the top 5. Were there any of these names that surprised you, or was there any names that surprised that wasn't on the list?
Well, what's interesting about the list, looking at it, is, you see a lot of layer 1, or what they might call layer 0, but layer 1 competitors against Ethereum. You also see Ethereum in there, but the things that kind of stuck out to me was Decentraland and Filecoin, because I'm not even really sure what status is. But Decentraland and Filecoin, obviously aren't layer 1 protocols trying to compete against Ethereum. It is good to see that Filecoin has some growth going on in there because it is a competitor against AWS. I like what you said about Apple developers on Decentraland. That makes sense. I really wasn't thinking about that when I first saw the article. But the main thing that I'm getting from this is that we are in a bear market and you have projects building, which is always a good sign. And these are the kind of projects that you're going to want to look into when you're trying to make your decisions about what projects you want to invest in, what coins that you find validity in use case and utility. And these kind of metrics are going to be able to give people that kind of insight as to what's being built. Now, I do agree with what Pace said. There can be manipulation being done with this. So you may want to, if you're really going to do deep dives, like go in and try to look at some of the information on GitHub and maybe try to compare it. If you're not a coder or a tech person, try to look at a GitHub that's already developed that you can kind of reference to make sure that what you're seeing is actually legitimate work being done versus just a bunch of commits being put in that may not necessarily equate to anything at all. It's just one of those metrics, though, again, that people can use. And I do, want to emphasize that projects that are spending funds and people that are spending their time, their most valuable asset, building during markets like this, pay attention to those projects and what they're going to be doing while the bull markets take place.
All right. And I think that's a good point, bringing up the bull market here. Now, Jayson Casper, I don't want to ask you about any specific GitHub admission here, any of these particular coins you're looking at, but is now the wrong time to even be investing in alts, given where we are in the cycle and given where we are with Bitcoin dominance, in your opinion?
Well, I'll be honest with you, DZ. I can speak for myself only here and say that I've been aggressively accumulating a lot of altcoins, especially when after the whole FTX thing happened. And when it comes to like a long-term bag, if you're holding it for the next bull market, we know right now we're not buying high, right? We know, objectively speaking, we are buying low. And if we just take a look at any of these coins, like let's take a look, for example, at Cardano, right? Even if our Cardano comes all the way down to 1 cent, right? If we're going to hit a $5 Cardano in the future, that's still a 12-to-1 risk-reward ratio. Meaning, even if you just put everything in now, you just forget about DCA. You're just like, you know what? I'm just going to put everything into Cardano right now, hold it till the end of the next bull market. You're still going to make 12 times more profit than potential risk here. And this is just the case with all these coins, right? You can see the same thing with Solana. And what I like to do is I like to look at where were the old lows, right? And basically, once the coin comes back to those old lows, that's where I really start to accumulate. And, I've been accumulating a lot of these coins, Solana, Polkadot, at these old lows. And what you got to do, and of course, it's not financial advice, but if you just have these on an exchange, and hopefully it doesn't go down, right? Hopefully, SBF doesn't own the exchange or whatever. But if you just set your limit orders along the way up. You don't even have to think about it. You're just holding these bags, and then eventually your profits are just going to be taken. And we know we're not buying high. How many people come to you, in the middle of the bull market when Bitcoin's like 60K and like, is this a good time to buy Dogecoin? I hear it's going to $1. It's like now everyone, even on this panel, everyone's calling for lower. And that's a good sign that you should probably be accumulating some altcoins on the cheap, because even if they go down from here, I think the upward potential is much more than the downward potential, especially if these are the coins that are really going to be performing well in the next cycle.
Yeah, and with Cardano in particular, you kind of laid out the 12-to-1 risk reward ratio there. I love the non-linear upside. And for those who just kind of further encapsulate what we're talking about here, you put in $100, you can only lose 1x, right? You only lost 1x of 100, meaning you only lost 100. But if it did hit $5, you're looking at a 12x. So it's a non-linear upside with a very linear downside. So there's just a lot of opportunity there if you end up choosing some winners. And speaking about choosing winners, Crypto Blood, I'll share the screen one more time here. The top 5, Polkadot, Cardano, Ethereum, Decentraland, Filecoin. Round out, then we have Status, ICP, IOTA, Solana, Cosmos. Anything here surprise you, or anything here maybe piquing your interest as a bear market accumulation?
I can't believe the Chainlink isn't on there.
Maybe it works too well.
It could be a possibility. Definitely could be a possibility. I think that the top 10 were fine. Nothing there surprised me at all. Again, Chainlink, I'm surprised that they weren't on there. But when it comes to altcoins, man, you got to be careful. And the reason you have to be careful here at this juncture, L1s will be probably your safest bet, if I could even use the word safe. It's all of this is very speculative. Every bull run or the subsequent altcoin run usually has coins that are in a new or different category. I think next bull run in the altcoin season is probably going to be something related to AI, and quantum, something like that, right? I think so. You got to just be careful. The coins that were the runners up or ran up high in the last altcoin season probably aren't the ones that are going to run up in the next one. So you just got to do your due diligence, stay abreast to what's going on in the markets. Things change every day, every week. And shoot, man, you never know. You don't know what's going to be hot the next go round versus what happened last
Blood, I agree. I kind of expect, now you say, I expect more L1s. I'm surprised Arbitrum, Optimism, Near, none of those three are on there. I'm not saying it makes me bearish for their upside potential, but it makes me think it might not match that Polygon Solana pump of 2020 to 21.
Right.
So
yeah, if you want to play the safest route, go on L1 and don't try to get into those coins that may run on an L1. That gets very, very dicey.
And I shared my purchase. I did DCA over into Filecoin over the weekend. I feel a little bit better about getting into the Filecoin.
Hey man, you got to give me credit for last week. I shorted at the top live. I don't know who else does that on Around the Blockchain.
You got to check out that channel. You got to check it out. And it's just putting out professional stuff across.
But I want to highlight something. You said DCA,
yes,
and if, regardless of where we are in the market, if there is some more downside or we are close to the low, a dollar cost average strategy is always a winning strategy. So I wouldn't encourage anybody to just go out and blow their wad just at once. You still have a time to bring that medium price down if we are going to go down. If not, you're still accumulating and dollar cost averaging. Either way, it's a safe strategy when it comes to that.
All right. Well,
when you add leverage in there, DZ, when you add leverage in there, that's when you really get yourself screwed up. You said 1x, right?
I was thinking. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
so I'm just saying, like, most people are probably putting 5x on that $100, and that's when you get yourself in trouble.
Yeah. You're going to lose 20%, and then you lost all of it. And you're like, hey, that math doesn't check out. It does. Oh, wait, trading fees. It only went up. You only lost 17%, and you lost everything. Oh, wait, no, everyone was shorting it. You only went down 15%, and you lost everything.
Right.
Welcome to leverage trading, folks. That's why you got to watch these experts. Hey, listen to these experts. Put in your many hours of study, hang out in their Discords, watch all their live streams, and then maybe feel a little bit better and just play with a little bit, folks. We don't want anyone getting wrecked. Hit that like button if you lost too much crypto to leverage trading. I know I have. All right. Now, Charles, in charge? Maybe. No, we're talking about Charles Hoskinson possibly appearing on Joe Rogan's podcast. There's a couple things maybe lining up where this could be a possibility, and then I'll go into my own reasoning why I think is maybe even likely. Lex Friedman was on Joe Rogan just recently and was saying, hey, the founder of Ethereum, Cardano, these Bitcoin devs, you should definitely have them on. Charles Hoskinson had already been on Lex Friedman, maybe a little bit of simpatico there. And also, the man lives in Wyoming on a ranch. He falcons, he hunts with a bow and arrow. I could definitely see Joe Rogan saying, all right, I was on the fence. The man has a falcon. Get him over here. So I'm feeling pretty bullish about this happening. Now, Big Pay, what do you think about the angle of Joe might not even want to talk about Cardano? Look at all the things he's doing on his Wyoming ranch. He's also trying to do a lot of cool things with blockchain technology. And, when it comes to ID systems, there's a whole angle with, hey, we could talk about surveillance state. Given currently what's happened, Lex Friedman, what are the odds, are you saying that, hey, he's going to pop up on an episode within the year?
I actually didn't hear that, and I must say I'm much more bullish after hearing that, because the article that I read, I thought it was just Charles saying that he would, which he has for years. But with Charles going on Lex Friedman and then Lex Friedman mentioning that to them, I'm definitely bullish. As far as Charles talking about Cardano or not, I definitely think that he will. While he does have all of these interests, it always seems to always fall back onto his core ideologies about the world, and Cardano is weaved right into that. And I personally think it would be really good for Cardano as well. Charles has a way of, either polarizing people to one side or the other. But with that polarization, there's a lot of people that would immediately fall in love with Charles, his ideologies, and then look for Cardano.
All right. And I want to add real quick, today's episode brought to you by bcvault.com. You can see it right there. Or presend.io. You can send crypto
Did you just
securely.
dab? Was that a dab there, D?
That's what it looked like.
I'm bringing it
Looked
back.
like it.
Bringing it back,
Okay,
everybody.
all right.
Yeah, I got a fidget spinner in my pocket too. RiceTVx, I think Big Pay kind of brings up a interesting thought and interesting idea.
Oh
not
my
planned,
God! You
not
gotta
planned,
be kidding
folks.
me.
What do you think about that, RiceTVx? Would Cardano be maybe the crypto of choice for Joe Rogan, given its decentralized nature?
That's a good question. I can't really answer that. Joe hasn't really been very, very forthcoming about his thoughts on cryptocurrency. I mean, he's had Andreas Antonopoulos on the show. He's had other people that have mentioned and talked about crypto. In the clip with the Lex Friedman show, he did say that he personally is not saying that crypto is BS. But he's saying that a lot of people already think that crypto is BS. Now, Joe is pretty well known for kind of going against the mainstream and kind of going against the grain. With that being said, he may be interested in trying to highlight some of the positivity about crypto to bring better attention, since most of the attention has been negative. He's very, very familiar with the FTX situation. He's had many guests speaking about that. So he knows that that is a big catalyst at a reason for why a lot of people think that crypto is BS. So bringing on legitimate projects, I think, will help to bring better light. Charles does a great job of explaining Cardano. He does a great job of explaining what sound money is. He comes from that libertarian mindset. So I think he would provide value when it comes to that. So it is very possible. It is very possible. I don't know how it would affect price, but the one thing I would say is Lex already interviewing Charles and suggesting and mentioning Cardano has more effect to me than the community kind of trying to basically beg to have Joe Rogan on it. The Cardano community, I love Cardano, but this looks really pathetic to me, where they're just really pushing and pushing and pushing. And that could kind of turn off the Joe Rogan and his people. They may not want to have it just because of that aspect. It may look very shilly. It may look set up. So, I mean, it should be a natural thing. If it was just Lex saying it and Lex referring, hey, check out this interview, and Joe checked it out, and he's like, yeah, I think you would be great. But this community is not doing a good job representing Cardano.
Yeah, no community. Yeah, it'll never equate. I mean, there's probably a community of people who want the Island Boys on Joe Rogan. So, yeah, I would agree. He's much, much, much more likely to go off of Lex Friedman's suggestion versus, this was retweeted just tons of times. So let's just.
If anything, he might have already wanted to do it, and this might be turning him off from doing it, or it might just be potentially delaying it from happening.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, just because of the hype.
Yeah. Jayson Casper, do you think that this would be a big event for crypto as far as volume? You know, he's one of the most watched podcasts. Would there be a nice injection? Could we see that tether print of 1 billion? You know, what do you think the reaction would be? And, you know, would Cardano pump be outsized compared to the rest of the market?
Yeah, I absolutely think so. I mean, you know, maybe Cardano could be the next DMT now that Joe Rogan's all about it. Maybe everyone else is going to be doing Cardano now. And, you know, they're going to be writing blogs about their Cardano trip stories. Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting, right? Joe Rogan, the most popular podcast in the world. If he starts talking about Cardano, a lot of people who have never even thought about cryptocurrency are going to start looking into it and be like, ooh, what is this Cardano stuff? So absolutely, I think it's bullish for Cardano in general because you know, a lot of people who are not into cryptocurrency, they hear about this like one coin and then they get obsessed with this one coin thinking it's going to be like the next Bitcoin. Like I can't tell you how many friends hit me up. They're like, bro, I just found out about this thing. I think it could be the next Bitcoin, you know? So you got millions of people who are going to have that mindset about Cardano.
My Pi referral link. Here's my Pi. It's going to be the next Bitcoin. Take Pi.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry,
no, that is a great point. And yeah, I could definitely see like similar to Doge, people still bringing up Doge, you know, a year and a half after it hit 70 cents.
Well, Doge could be the next Bitcoin, you know. I've stopped doubting Doge. After all these years, you know what?
I sold a bunch at 7 cents and then I caught, you know, under a penny I got in. I sold a bunch of 7 cents, dropped down to 3 or 4 cents. And then I got out at like 68 or something. And so, yeah, I do the same thing. I think I sold the Thursday before the Elon episode on Saturday. I don't doubt it anymore. I just don't get it. I just don't get it.
It's the perfect cryptocurrency. It's the perfect cryptocurrency to buy your coffee with, and it is basically a default. Anything that's going to have inflation and a constant supply should be utilized for everyday payments. And it was blood that turned me on to that concept.
Yeah, and I mean, you could buy Dallas Mavericks tickets with it too. So it has some utility, AMC tickets maybe one day. All right, well, Crypto Blood, do you think that Charles could do a good job of changing Joe's mind or maybe even changing the audience mind? Do you think that maybe Joe or maybe anyone who had a dogmatic point of view, can he bring them over to the decentralized promised land?
Charles Hoskinson's and Joe Roganson's, I don't think would be a great, I don't think it's going to do anything. We've already heard, I mean, I'm an OG in the crypto space. I remember seeing Andreas Antonopoulos on there multiple times on Joe Rogan's explaining Bitcoin and doing a better job, I think, than Charles Hoskinson's can do with Cardano. I mean, I just don't see it being anything of any real essence there. So, no, I don't think this will be anything for the Cardano family to really hang their hat on. It's not really going to move it, in my opinion. People already know. Listen, most people who watch Joe Rogan already know about crypto. If they wanted to buy crypto, they've already bought it, and they've already lost all their money buying it because they bought it at the top. So I think it's really not a big event, in my opinion.
All right, yeah, I think that's a fair take, and yeah, I remember, just to push back a little bit, the Antonopoulos. He's a great communicator if you're in the weeds, but. Charles Hoskinson, you know, seeing him in front of Congress, I would say Charles may be a better communicator than Antonopoulos. And I love Antonopoulos, watch him all the time. I guess 2016, so we're looking, you know, 7 years ago, watch him all the time. So no disrespect to the A and Top on Twitter.
But he's taking a seat back too. I kind of wonder where the hell he went.
Yeah,
it's like almost like I don't know what's going on with him.
I remember him not having any
Charles
Bitcoin.
Is still here.
I remember him selling all his Bitcoin, and then the community gave him a bunch during the 2017 pump. So yeah, it's a great story. Right? You should definitely know about.
I still have mad respect for him. He has taken a step back. I don't know if he's on vacation, permanent vacation, or what.
Antonopoulos, we'd love to have you on the show. Come on down. You know, maybe we'll try to reach out.
At Bernie's.
All right. Well, that is all we have time for, and it was a close one. But then Jayson, he brought up the fact about, hey, he knows where the next Bitcoin is. So Jayson, you said you know where the next Bitcoin is. Obviously, he's kidding, folks, but you might know that next good trade. You want to just leave us with some good parting thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me on. Everyone, make sure to subscribe to all these panelists. Subscribe to Jayson Casper on YouTube. Also, we are having a 20% discount on all trading courses at JaysonCasperTrading.com. So if you want to learn how to navigate these charts, check it out.
All right. And that's we'll be back tomorrow. And make sure you, like he said, follow everyone's channel here. The links are in the description. While you're moving around on this app, why don't you go ahead and hit that like button? It doesn't cost you anything. It pumps Bitcoin up by 1 penny. So you have the power in your hands. All you got to do is hit that button. I'll see you tomorrow, Bit Squad. Later on.